Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. I'm Ty Glenn. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. Got lots of NHL news to discuss, so make sure that you stay tuned in to this episode to the end. And make sure that you are following the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on all your podcast streaming platforms. So on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. It really helps me out in growing the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. So make sure to follow me on there and be sure to follow me on all of my socials as well. So that's just a little announcement I wanted to make before we go ahead and get started. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started into the NHL news for today. So the Boston Bruins, they hold off the Toronto Maple Leafs with a 5-3 win on Tuesday. They won their 7th straight game in a row, which marks their longest win streak since the 8-game win streak that they had in April 2023. And that was from March 30th to April 13, 2023. And that was during the 2022-23 NHL season. And we all know how the Boston Bruins did that year. They won the President's Trophy, and then they lost in the first round to the Florida Panthers. So the Panthers pulled off an upset over the Boston Bruins that year, but the Bruins are back to their winning ways. They have won 7 in a row, and they improved to 11-7-0 of the season. It was a milestone night in Beantown as David Pastrnak scored his 400th and 401st career NHL goals. He became the 6th player in Bruins history to reach 400 goals, joining Johnny Butte, who had 545 career goals, Phil Esposito with 459 career goals, Patrice Bergeron with 427 career goals, Brad Marchand with 422 career goals, and Rick Middleton with 402 career NHL goals. David Pastrnak also added an assist for a 3-point night in this one. Hampus Lindholm had a goal and assist for a 2-point night. Of course, his goal coming on the power play. Pavel Zacha scored for the Bruins as well. It was a power play goal for Boston. Alex Steeves scored for the Bruins. First goal of the season. I believe he's a new player on Boston as well. I think he played in Toronto for a brief short amount of time. I think he played for Toronto's AHL team, the Toronto Marlies. So that's the Maple Leafs AHL team. I think he spent some time in there. So he's getting new to the Boston Bruins. Jeremy Swayman made 30 saves on 33 shots facing net. One of the saves that I saw that Jeremy Swayman made was when Philip Myers had a slap shot one-timer and Jeremy Swayman made a save on it. His mask popped off in the middle of the save, and thank God he didn't get hurt because the puck can really hurt you. And it was like back then, goalies didn't wear masks. Back then, goalies did not wear masks. But I believe, like, since the 1950s when Jacques Plante, who is a Hockey Hall of Famer, played his NHL career with the Montreal Canadiens back in the 1950s, he was the first goaltender to start wearing a hockey mask. So none of the goalies would be wearing masks today if it wasn't for Jacques Plante. So Jeremy Swayman, he's okay. Sometimes those, incidents happen in hockey where the goaltender makes a save and sometimes his mask pops off in the process. I know when I was watching the Blackhawks game, I believe this is against Ottawa, Spencer Knight was making some saves and, his mask had popped off in the process. That was during, Frozen Frenzy Day when the Blackhawks were taking on the Senators. So these kinds of incidents happen in hockey, but we just have to make sure that the mask stays tight as possible. Make sure no goaltender gets hurt or nobody gets hurt in general, because again, back then goalies didn't wear masks until Jacques Plante made that all possible, and now every goaltender is wearing a mask. So thank God Jeremy Swayman didn't get hurt, and the Bruins came out with the 5-3 win over the Maple Leafs. They did face each other. These two teams faced off against each other last week as well. And the Bruins won 5-3. This was in Toronto when these two teams faced off. For the Maple Leafs, Steven Lorentz, Bobby McMahon, and Avec Larson all scored for Toronto. Steven Lorentz had a shorthanded goal. Bobby McMahon with a power play goal. And Avec Larson with an even strength goal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Morgan Riley added an assist for, actually, that was the only point he scored in the game. But that assist moved him past Thomas Cavalry for second all-time among Leafs defensemen, with 438 assists in his career. Only Boris Salmi with 620 assists is first in the Maple Leafs all-time assist leaders. Brandon Carlo faced his former team, the Boston Bruins, in this one. He was traded to the Maple Leafs last season on March 7th at the NHL trade deadline last season. He logged in 20 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time with 2 hits and 3 blocked shots in his return to Boston. Anthony Stolarz made 8 saves on 11 shots faced the net. He left the game due to an upper body injury. Head coach Craig Berube said the injury did not appear too serious, so he might be out for a couple games or so. We'll just have to see more about that. Dennis Hildeby stepped in and he made 19 saves in relief. Auston Matthews also exited this game. He exited midway through the second period after a hit from Nikita Stolarz, so he's out with a lower body injury, and this is going to hurt for Maple Leafs fans and also for Team USA fans, because Auston Matthews was supposed to be one of the players playing for Team USA come the NHL Olympics in Milan, Italy. And now that Auston Matthews is out, we don't know how long he's going to be out with this lower body injury, but hopefully it's not too long so he can be available to play for Team USA for the NHL Olympics. Nikita Stolarz said that that the hit on him was not that meant to be physical. It was like a routine hit. There was no intent for him to injure Auston Matthews, but yeah, he is a big guy. He is tough to play against. Maple Leafs lost their third straight game after Matthews and Stolarz left the game with injuries, so they lost their third straight game, and they moved to 8-1 of the season. Maple Leafs return home to face the LA Kings on Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Bruins start a 2-game road trip in Ottawa against the Senators Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. But moving on from that game to the Mile High City, the Colorado Avalanche scored 4 goals in their 4-1 win over the Anaheim Ducks on Tuesday. They put an end to the Ducks' 7-game win streak, and they moved to 11-1-5 of the season. They won 4 in a row. They extend their point streak to 8 games in the process, in which they are 6-0-2 during the span. Fun fact, Colorado is 16-1-2 in their past 19 games against the Anaheim Ducks in this one, so I thought that was a fun fact to point out following their 4-1 win over the Anaheim Ducks, but I'm pretty sure Ducks fans won't be too pleased about that. Gabriel Landeskog scored his first regular season goal in this one. This is his first goal since March 5th of 2022. This was a long time coming for Gabriel Landeskog. Of course, he did have chances in his previous games of the season that he might have potentially had his first goal of the season, but some of those goals would call back due to offside, due to goaltender interference, so the referees had to call some of his goals back that he scored or that he appeared to score prior to this game against the Anaheim Ducks. So this was a long time coming for Gabriel Landeskog, and I'm pretty sure that he's glad to get it over with. He entered the night with only 4 assists in 16 games this season, so I'm pretty sure that first goal of the season, especially after a while, it's got to feel good for Gabriel Landeskog. Of course, he missed the 2023-24 season and the 2024-25 season because he had surgery and he was out for the Avalanche for those 2 seasons. After the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup in 2022 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, he had to have surgery, so that's why he missed those 2 seasons. Artturi Lehkonen had a goal and assist for a 2-point night. Martin Nature scored for Colorado as well. Parker Kelly had an empty net goal for the Avs, and that was a great assist from Nathan MacKinnon to set it up, like dangle past Leo Carlsson and then set up Parker Kelly for the empty netter. And speaking of Nathan MacKinnon, he finished with 3 assists in the game against the Ducks. He extends his point streak to 10 games, in which he has 22 points during the span, 8 goals, 14 assists with 22 points during the 10-game point streak for Nate Dahl. And fun fact, Nathan MacKinnon recorded his 11th career NHL point streak of at least 10 games, passing Joe Sakic and Peter Stastny, who both had 10 career point streaks of at least 10 games. For the most in Avalanche and Quebec Nordiques franchise history. Scott Wedgwood made 35 saves on 36 shots faced the net. And for the Anaheim Ducks, Leo Carlsson scored the lone goal in this one for Anaheim. This is 11th goal of the season, and he extends his point streak to 11 games, 20 points during the span, so 9 goals, 11 assists for 20 points during the 11-game point streak for Leo Carlsson. And gotta feel good for me. Even though the Ducks lost that game, that's gotta feel good for me because I do have Leo Carlsson on my fantasy team. So he is racking up major key points during this 11-game point streak. Also, Leo Carlsson's goal in this one is his 100th career NHL point. And fun fact, he is the youngest player to reach his 100 career NHL point in Ducks history at 20 years old and 320 days, surpassing Paul Kariya, who had his 100 career NHL point with the Ducks at 21 years old and 109 days. Lucas Dahlstad made 32 saves on 35 shots faced the net. And like I mentioned before, the Ducks' 7-game win streak comes to an end, and they move to 11-4-1 of the season. The Ducks continue their 3-game road trip in Detroit against Detroit Red Wings on Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Avalanche continue their 4-game homestand against the Buffalo Sabres on Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. But moving on from the Mile High City to the state of hockey in St. Paul, Minnesota, the San Jose Sharks will take down the Minnesota Wild with a 2-1 overtime win. Colin Graff with the overtime game-winning goal. He scored the game winner at 2 minutes and 41 seconds of overtime on a backhand finish off of a feed from Macklin Celebrini. And that was a great move for Macklin Celebrini. He drew the Wild defenders, and he found Colin Graff, slid the puck over to him, who beat Gustafsson cleanly. And the Sharks moved to 8-6-3 of the season. They won 4 in a row. And fun fact, the Sharks have allowed 1 goal in each game during their winning streak, and they extend their point streak to 7 games, in which they are 6-0-1 during the span. And this is not a joke when I say this. They are tied with the Chicago Blackhawks in a wild card spot in the Western Conference. So 2 teams that are young teams, by the way, young rebuilding teams. You would think that these 2 teams, the Blackhawks and the Sharks, will be at the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the league. But surprisingly, these 2 teams are doing well this season. They both have great records. The Blackhawks are 8-5-3. Sharks are 8-6-3. So both similar records almost in this. Both similar records, and they both have, I believe, 19 points in the wild card spot. So this is crazy. It's crazy to think about because, like I said, you will usually see these 2 teams near the bottom of the NHL. Now they are surprisingly starting off the season on a good note. And this whole NHL season in general has been really surprising. I didn't expect the Blackhawks to be doing this well. I was expecting some improvement. I wasn't expecting this much big improvement. But as Connor Bedard said, we don't want to win in another 3 years. We want to win now. And I'm pretty sure that other rebuilding teams like the Sharks, the Ducks, who are doing well. The Ducks are first place in the Pacific Division. And no, that is not a joke. I'm pretty sure that these rebuilding teams want to do well. They want to win now. They don't want to wait another 3 years. They don't want to continue this rebuild another 3 years. They want to win now, and they are surely setting the tone for it. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that the Blackhawks and the Sharks are now tied with, I believe, 19 points in the Western Conference. That is no joke. Take a look at the NHL standings after this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Macklin Celebrini had a multi-point night in this one. Of course, he finished with 2 assists, both of them obviously being on the Sharks' goals. This is his 13th career multi-assist game, and that ties him with Connor Bedard, and he only trails Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby among teenagers. And Will Smith, he had a goal in this one as well, besides Colin Graf. And what a great feat for Macklin Celebrini to set Will Smith up for the goal right there on the power play. That's going to be a dangerous tandem to watch in the next few years for the San Jose Sharks. And the Sharks have a good prospect pool, too. They have great young players in this system. Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, Sam Dickinson, Michael Misa, the list goes on and on. So the Blackhawks are not the only team with the great prospect pool. It's the San Jose Sharks as well. And Macklin Celebrini and the Fresh Prince, Will Smith, certainly leading the charge in this one for the San Jose Sharks. Yaroslav Askarov made 28 saves on 29 shots faced the net, so he had a really good game in this one. For the Minnesota Wild, Matt Boldy scored the lone goal for Minnesota, that one coming on the power play in the second period for his 9th goal of the season. Philip Gustafson made 16 saves on 18 shots faced the net, and following the loss, which I believe the Wild had won 2 straight games coming into this one, but following the loss, they moved to 7-4 of the season, so right at 500. And they continue their 5-game homestand against another California team, the Anaheim Ducks, on Saturday at 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time. The Sharks continue their 3-game road trip in Calgary against the Flames Thursday at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. But moving on from the state of hockey to Raleigh, North Carolina, as the Washington Capitals will come in and storm past the Carolina Hurricanes, no pun intended, with a 4-1 win on Tuesday. And the Capitals moved to 8-7-1 of the season. They lost 2 in a row coming into this game, so they got a win to get back on the win column. And also Ovechkin had a goal and assist for a 2.9. That goal coming on a empty netter for his 901st career NHL goal. Brandon Duhaime, Dylan Strome, and Jacob Chikrin scored the other goals for the Caps. Logan Thompson made 30 saves on 31 shots faced the net. And for the Carolina Hurricanes, Nikolai Ehlers scored the lone goal for Carolina. That goal extended his point streak to 5 games, in which he had 6 points during the span. 3 goals, 3 assists for 6 points during a 5-game point streak. And Freddie Anderson made 24 saves on 27 shots faced the net. And there was kind of a moment in this game, I believe this came in the first period, I believe. With 5 minutes left in the first period, there was a collision between Nick Dow and Freddie Anderson behind the net. And one of the Hurricanes players had shuttled, I believe it was Logan Stankoven. And then Nick Dow was like, what? What did I do? And like one of the Hurricanes players had cross-checked him. And then seconds later, Freddie Anderson comes in and he goes after Nick Dow, and then there's a whole scrummage in behind the net, and then we eventually see Martin Ferivari and Logan Stankoven drop the gloves in that one. I thought that was a pretty good moment to point out in that game, but yeah, it was crazy. SportsCenter actually showed this, by the way. As you watch SportsCenter this morning, they actually talked about that moment in the first period between the Capitals and the Hurricanes. But yeah, if the opposing team lays a hit on your goalie, like the players on the other team are not going to take that, and the goalies sure are not going to take that. That's why Freddie Anderson went after Nick Dow, because like it was the same thing in the Kraken and Maple Leafs game back in October, where it was like one of the Kraken's players ran to Anthony Stolarz, and nobody on the team did nothing to help him. And so Anthony Stolarz went after the Kraken player himself and started fighting him, and then there was a whole scrummage after that. In hockey is a team sport. It is a team sport. You got to stick up for one another. You're like family when it comes to hockey, and you rarely see this in like other sports. But in hockey, if somebody lays a hit on your teammate, you sure are going to be able to drop. You sure are going to drop the gloves after a hit like that, especially if it's a dirty hit. If it's a dirty hit come on, we're fighting right away. And I'm a hockey player myself. I usually try and stay away from the fights and play my game and do my best on the ice. But if somebody lays a hit on my goalie or lays a dirty hit on one of my teammates, and I'm not saying that specific hit was dirty. I'm just saying, like, if somebody lays a hit or does something horrible to my teammates, I'm going in and I'm fighting every single play on the opposing team, which, like I said, I usually try and stay away from the fights, but I'm always going to stick up for my teammates whenever a dirty hit happens or somebody gets laid down and they can't get off the ice. Like, I'm going in and I'm fighting everybody on the opposing team. But, yeah, I just wanted to point that out there. Like family in hockey, your teammates are like, family to you. So it is a team sport, and always going to stick up for one another, especially for your goalie. Your goalie sits in the crease, has to make all these crazy, incredible saves. The least you can do is just stand up for your goalie and fight somebody after your goalie gets knocked out, after all the hard work he's got to put in the crease. But the Hurricanes' 4-game winning streak comes to an end. They moved to 11-5-0 this season. They continue their 3-game homestand against the Canucks on Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And then they will close out that 3-game homestand against the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So a 2006 Stanley Cup Final rematch to close out the homestand for the Carolina Hurricanes. The Capitals conclude their 3-game road trip against the Florida Panthers on Thursday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Other games from Tuesday, the LA Kings won 5-1 against the Canadiens on Tuesday, scored 5 unanswered goals in the win. Dallas Stars went 3-2 in overtime against the Senators. Roope Hintz with the overtime game-winning goal, his 4th goal of the season. They complete the comeback against the Senators in this one because they were down 2-0 in this game, and the Stars scored 3 unanswered goals to win the game in overtime. Of course, 2 goals in regulation, and then Roope Hintz overtime game winner to seal the deal. The Blues hold off the Calgary Flames with a 3-2 win in St. Louis on Tuesday. The Winnipeg Jets win 5-3 against the Vancouver Canucks. It was great to see Jonathan Toews score once again. This is his 3rd goal of the season. That goal coming in the first period. As a Blackhawks fan, hopefully he has a great year in Winnipeg. Hopefully he has an outstanding, solid performance in Winnipeg, his hometown team, and his first season back in the league since the 2022-23 season, because he went on a 2-year hiatus. He had to focus on his health and get better, and that's why he missed the past 2 seasons. But it's great to see Tasia back in the league. Really do miss him. We miss him in Chicago because, like I said, I am a Blackhawks fan, and miss him dearly in Chicago, and I can't wait for that game in January when the Jets come to the Windy City to take on the Chicago Blackhawks. Jonathan Toews, first game back at the United Center. That one's going to be a great game to watch. It's going to be an emotional game as well. The Blue Jackets, they went 2-1 in the shootout against the Seattle Kraken, and that will be the final game of the night on Tuesday. Taking a look at the NHL games on the slate for today. There's only 4 NHL games on the slate for today. We got the New York Rangers taking on the Tampa Bay Lightning at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. This will air on TNT and HBO Max. The Rangers finally, they get a win at home at Madison Square Garden. They had a 6-3 win over the Nashville Predators. Of course, that had to be the team that they could get a win against because the Predators have been struggling themselves. And I said on Monday that going into that game at Madison Square Garden, the Rangers and Predators are desperate for wins because both of these teams were struggling. The Predators struggling overall in general, and then the Rangers struggling at home. The Rangers were old. I said on Monday they were 0-5-1 coming into that game. They were 0-6-1 coming into that game. I didn't mean to say 0-5-1. It was actually 0-6-1 coming into that game on Monday. But the Rangers finally get a win on home ice. As a Rangers fan, Rangers fans, I'm not a Rangers fan. Of course, you guys know I'm a Blackhawks fan. But I'm pretty sure Rangers fans are happy to see that they finally get a win on home ice. I'm pretty sure the players themselves, after struggling at home, being shut out in 4 of their first 6 home games of the season. I'm pretty sure that had to feel good for them as well to get a win on home ice. So it was great to see. Madison Square Garden is one of the best arenas to go watch a hockey game, man. I mean, number one arena is the United Center. Not being biased when I said that. But number one arena is the United Center. Of course, other great hockey arenas to go watch a hockey game at: Madison Square Garden, Bell Center, XL Energy Center, which I believe the Wild had changed that name, but I still call it the XL Energy Center. Bridgestone Arena, another great arena to go watch a hockey game. Of course, that's where the Nashville Predators play at. That arena is always buzzing as well. So there are a couple of good arenas on my list for you guys to go watch a hockey game live. If you have not been to a hockey game before, those are a couple of arenas to go watch a hockey game live at. But yeah, Rangers finally get a win on home ice at Madison Square Garden, taking down the Predators 6-3 on Monday. They're on the road in Tampa against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and we don't need to worry about the stats on the road because the Rangers have been doing really good so far on the road. So they're road warriors, so they've been really good on the road so far. They just really needed that home win on Monday. Other games on the NHL slate for today, got the Edmonton Oilers taking on the Philadelphia Flyers at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And then we got the Buffalo Sabres taking on Utah Mammoth at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. These two teams didn't play not too long ago in Buffalo, where the Mammoth won 2-1 in overtime. Clayton Keller with the overtime game-winning goal in that one. And then to wrap up the night, we got the New Jersey Devils taking on the Chicago Blackhawks at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Jack Hughes versus Connor Bedard, 2 number 1 overall picks in their respective draft class year. Jack Hughes in 2019 and Connor Bedard in 2023. So this should be a great game to watch, and hopefully Biz has nothing negative to say about the Blackhawks, because we are sure we are in a wild card spot. We're 8-5-3 this season. Connor Bedard having a great season as well. Last season was a struggle for Connor Bedard in his second NHL season. He received a lot of criticism, but he's certainly silencing the critics. He's silencing Paul Bissonnette, and he's up to like 25 points this season, I believe. So, and this is 16, 17 games played for Connor Bedard this season. So he's already having an outstanding season. So silencing all the critics right now. But this should be a good game nonetheless. It's going to be a tough matchup for the Blackhawks against New Jersey Devils, because the Devils are, I believe, 11-5-1. Let me check that real quick. I believe the Devils are 11. No, they're 11-4-1. So I had to go back and check the standings. So the Devils are first in the division with 23 points. They're 11-4-1 of the season. The Blackhawks are 8-5-3 of the season with 19 points in a wild card spot. So yeah, we are in a tough matchup against the New Jersey Devils. This is the first meeting of the season between the Blackhawks and Devils, by the way. And this is the first game back at the United Center since the Frozen Frenzy night, where Connor Bedard had his first career hat trick. So, hoping to get a win on home ice following the long 6-game road trip. We have won 3 in a row because we won the last 3 games of our 6-game road trip. So, hoping to extend this win streak to 4 games and probably do like the Anaheim Ducks did and win at least 7 games. That's probably going to be impossible to do, but we'll just see what happens in this one when the Blackhawks take on the Devils. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, make sure to follow the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like I said, it really helps me out in growing the Hockey Talk with TG podcast and engaging with all of you and talking about the greatest sport and game on the planet, hockey. So make sure that you follow the Hockey Talk with TG podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio, and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you won't miss any of the latest episodes of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast and the latest NHL news. Both of you guys have a great rest of your day. Keep God first as always. Be blessed. I will see you guys on Friday for another episode of the Hockey Talk with TG podcast. Take care.